broke the rules to save an old dog. Then the truth came out. The shelter smelled like bleach, wet fur, and old metal. Iris Bell wrinkled her nose as she stepped into the back hallway of Ashbridge Municipal Shelter. She was still getting used to the sharp odor that never seemed to fade. The air felt heavy and sad, like the building itself had given up. Iris was 54, with silver-streaked black hair pulled back in a tight bun. A retired trauma nurse, she had once saved lives in crowded emergency rooms. Now she cleaned cages, filled food bowls, and gave nervous dogs gentle pats. This was her third week at the shelter, and already she was starting to understand why people warned her it would be tough work. She had taken the job after her son Kyle died from an overdose the year before. The silence in her apartment had become too much. She needed to be around living things. Something that needed her, something she might still be able to save. "Iris, Kennel 7 needs mopping," came a voice from the hallway. It was Lorna Keene, the shelter's director. Her gray blazer looked out of place among the fur and noise, but her voice carried power. Cold, sharp, and always in a rush, Lorna believed in rules and order. She kept charts about which animals had been there the longest. If a dog made it to day 31 without being adopted, it was added to what everyone called the compassionate list. It sounded nice, but everyone knew what it meant. "I'm on it," Iris replied, grabbing a mop. As she walked toward Kennel 7, her eyes drifted to the far corner of the room. That was where he always was. Marley. A large, old Labrador mix with faded yellow fur and soft brown eyes. He hardly moved. He lay curled in his corner, one leg stretched oddly out in front of him. Iris had noticed the leg on her first day. It bent wrong. The way he limped told her he was in pain. "Poor boy," she whispered, setting the mop down. Marley raised his head, just a little. His tail thumped once against the cold floor. Iris knelt beside the gate. "I'll be back, sweet boy." That night, as she clocked out, Iris asked Tish, the front desk receptionist, about Marley. "Oh, that one?" Tish replied, not even looking up from her phone. "Been here forever. He's like ancient, probably has arthritis or something. Lorna's got him on the list for next week." "The list?" Iris asked, her stomach tightening. Tish finally looked up. "You know, the E list, euthanasia. Sorry, hon, old dogs don't get adopted around here. Too expensive to care for." Iris didn't sleep much that night. She kept seeing Marley's eyes. There was something in them. Not fear, not even pain. Something gentler, like trust. The next morning, Iris skipped her lunch break and sat by Marley's kennel with a piece of chicken wrapped in a napkin. He sniffed it once and gently took it from her hand. Then, slowly, he limped forward and rested his head against the bars. "You were someone's dog once," she said softly. "You know how to love." That afternoon, Iris made a phone call from the break room. "Dr. Alana Voss speaking," came the voice on the other end, calm, warm. Iris explained everything. How she'd found Marley, the strange leg, and the shelter's refusal to get him looked at. "I don't have much," Iris said. "But if there's any way, could you just take a look? I need to know if he's suffering." There was a pause. Then Dr. Voss replied, "Bring him tomorrow, no charge." The next day, Iris arrived at work early. Lorna wasn't in yet. With her heart pounding, she unlocked Marley's kennel, wrapped him in a soft blanket, and gently lifted him into the back seat of her car. He didn't resist. He just looked at her, trusting. Dr. Voss's clinic was small but bright. A table stood in the center of the room, and medical posters covered the walls. Marley sat patiently as the vet examined him. "He's got arthritis, for sure," Dr. Voss said, feeling along his back. "But that shoulder? See how he flinches when I press here?" Iris nodded. "We'll take an X-ray." The machine clicked. Minutes later, Dr. Voss pointed to a glowing spot on the screen. "This bone," she said, tapping gently, "was broken a long time ago. It healed wrong. That's why he limps." "Can it be fixed?" Dr. Voss shook her head slowly. "Not now. He's too old for surgery. But we can ease his pain. With the right meds, he could have some good time left." Iris looked at Marley. He was sitting up now, tail brushing the floor. For the first time, She saw his ears lift just a bit. His eyes looked brighter. "He deserves that," she whispered. Back at the shelter, Iris told Lorna what the vet had said. "So?" Lorna asked, not looking up from her desk. "He's still on the list. We don't have funds for pain meds for dying dogs, but I found a way to get help for him. For free." Lorna's voice turned cold. "We don't break protocol, Iris. One exception turns into 10. It's not personal, it's a procedure." "He's not a number," Iris said quietly. "He's Marley." Lorna slammed a drawer. "Then you take him. You want to save one dog? Fine. But don't expect us to change the whole system for him." Iris stood there for a long moment. Then she said, "Okay, I will." That evening, Iris filled out adoption papers, paid the fee, and carried Marley home in her car. Her apartment was small, just one bedroom, a kitchen, and a sunroom filled with old books. She laid a thick blanket by the radiator and helped Marley settle in. He sighed deeply and rested his head on her foot. As the sun set outside the window, Iris sat quietly, her hand resting on Marley's back. She didn't know what would come next, but for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel so alone. The days after Marley came home were filled with quiet joy. Iris watched him grow more comfortable each day. He still limped, and some mornings he had trouble getting up, but he wagged his tail more. He explored the small apartment like he owned it. Iris even caught him rolling on his back in the sunlight near the window. They took slow walks in the early evening. People smiled at them. "Beautiful dog," someone said one day. Iris smiled back. "Yes," she said softly, "he is." But trouble was coming. Iris could feel it. It started with the silence at work. When she came back to the shelter, no one said much. Tish gave her a strange look. Ollie, the teenage kennel worker, avoided her eyes. Then Lorna called her into the office. "You removed a dog from the shelter without proper permission," she said flatly. "Even if you brought him back, that would have been cause for suspension." "I adopted him," Iris replied. "I filled out the forms, paid the fee." Lorna leaned back in her chair. "That's not the point. You broke the chain of command. That's not how things are done here." Iris said nothing. Her hands were clenched in her lap. "Consider this your one warning," Lorna said. "You're here to follow policy, not play the hero." That evening, Iris went through Marley's adoption papers. Something didn't feel right. His intake record had very little information. No notes, no vet checks, not even a microchip scan. There was just one line, "Found near Raintree Apartments." No collar, estimated age, 8 years. It didn't sit right. Marley wasn't some wild stray. He knew how to sit, how to walk on a leash, how to wait by the door. He was house-trained. Someone had loved him once. She flipped to the back of the folder. A small, faded photograph had been stapled there. It showed a younger Marley, standing proudly next to a man in an army jacket. The man had short brown hair, tan skin, and a wide grin. He wore a patch on his sleeve. Iris leaned in closer. The name under the photo had smudged with time, but she could make out part of it. "Hey?" Her heart skipped. Who was this man? Why hadn't anyone come for Marley? The next day at work, Iris pulled Ollie aside near the supply closet. "Hey," she said gently. "Do you remember when Marley came in about a year ago?" Ollie shrugged. "He was already here when I started. Do you ever wonder where the dogs come from? Who did they belong to?" Ollie gave her a weird look. "Why does it matter?" "Because someone cared about Marley once. Someone let him go, or maybe didn't get a choice." Ollie rolled his eyes. "It's a shelter, Iris. Dogs come, dogs go. You get used to it." Iris didn't answer, but she knew she'd never get used to it. That night, Iris opened her old laptop and typed T-Ray Military Raintree Apartments into a search bar. She didn't expect much, but after a few minutes of scrolling, she found a local newspaper article from 4 years ago. The headline read, "Local vet hospitalized after breakdown. Dog taken to shelter." The man in the photo looked just like the one in Marley's picture. His name was Tommy Ray. He had served in the army and returned home with PTSD. According to the article, he had collapsed in his apartment. No family, no next of kin. The dog had been removed and sent to a local shelter. Iris sat back in her chair. Her hands were trembling. So Marley had a name, and the past, and a person who once loved him. But the shelter had never tried to reunite them. Has anyone even looked? The next morning, Iris took a deep breath and knocked on Lorna's office door. "Come in," Lorna barked. Iris stepped in, holding the adoption file and the newspaper printout. "I found something you should see," she said, laying them on the desk. Lorna didn't even glance at them. "Unless it's a change to your work schedule, I'm not interested." "It's about Marley," Iris said. Lorna sighed. "He's not our problem anymore." But he was. He was taken from a man who didn't abandon him. He was hospitalized, and we never even tried to contact him. Lorna's eyes narrowed. "This is ancient history. It doesn't matter now. It matters to Marley. It matters to me." Lorna's voice turned sharp. "Drop it, Iris. If you keep pushing this, I'll have to report you for insubordination." Iris stared at her, shocked. "You'd rather silence me than do what's right?" Lorna stood. "You're on probation. One more step out of line and you're out." That evening, Iris walked Marley through the park. Her mind buzzed with worry, fear, and something else. Rage. She sat on a bench and took out her phone. Then she opened a blank post. "His name is Marley. He's 12 years old. He was taken from a man who loved him. That man never gave him up. He was sick and couldn't fight for him. Marley ended up in a shelter that almost killed him for being old. No one cared to look into his past, but I did. Because he matters." Iris uploaded the post with the photo of Marley and the soldier. She didn't expect anything to happen, but the next day, it had over 1,000 shares, and her inbox was full. A local reporter named Casey Lynn reached out. "I saw your post. I'd like to tell Marley's story," she said. Iris hesitated. "The shelter might come after me. I'll keep you anonymous if you want. But people care, they're talking." A few days later, a short article ran online. "Old Dog, Forgotten Soldier, the story of one shelter's mistake." The comments were full of support. "My shelter did the same thing. Bless this woman. Where's the man now? We should find him." At work, Lorna was furious. "You posted about us," she snapped in front of the break room staff. "Do you know what you've done?" "I told the truth," Iris said. "You're suspended until further notice." Iris didn't cry. She didn't even flinch. "I'll keep speaking out," she said, "because Marley's story isn't over." That night, Iris held Marley close on the couch. His body felt heavier than before. His eyes were slower to blink, his breath more shallow. She whispered, "I found your person, Marley. I think he's still out there." Marley looked at her and blinked. Just once, as if to say he already knew.
The next few days moved fast. Too fast for Iris to keep up. Her story about Marley had gone everywhere. People shared it online, in emails, and even at the local grocery store. Iris got messages from strangers saying they cried reading it. Some said they had adopted older dogs because of it. But not everyone was happy. Ashbridge Shelter was getting phone calls and bad reviews. Protesters stood outside the building with signs that read, "Dogs are not trash," and "Justice for Marley." Inside, Lorna was trying to keep control, but it was slipping. Iris was still suspended. She wasn't allowed back in the shelter, but her phone never stopped buzzing. A news team wanted to film a short segment. A woman in Florida offered to pay for Marley's medicine. A man from Chicago said he used to know someone named Tommy Ray, and he might still be in the area. Iris sat on her couch, holding Marley's head gently in her lap. He was tired, too tired. His breathing was shallow, his fur was thinner. Some days he barely wanted to eat. The light in his eyes, the one that made her fight for him, was starting to fade. "I need to find him," Iris whispered. "He needs to know you didn't forget him." The next morning, Iris met with Casey Lynn, the reporter who had helped share Marley's story. "There's a name I keep seeing in the comments," Casey said. "Tommy Ray. I think we found him." She pulled up a file on her tablet. "He's been living at a veterans shelter. He's had a hard time, lost his apartment after being in the hospital too long, but he's still around, still alive." Iris stared at the screen. Her heart beat fast. "Can I see him?" Casey nodded. "He spends time in the park on Main Street, near the memorial benches. He walks alone." That afternoon, Iris helped Marley into the car. He was slow, but he looked out the window as they drove. She brought his blanket, his favorite treat, and the old photo, the one of him standing beside Tommy. When they got to the park, the sun was just beginning to set. The light made the trees look golden. Iris walked slowly, Marley leaning on her leg. Then she saw him. A man sat on a bench near the edge of the trees. His shoulders were hunched. He wore a faded army jacket and stared down at the ground. A small backpack sat beside him. Iris stopped a few feet away. "Tommy?" she asked gently. He looked up. His eyes were tired, red-rimmed, but they were kind. "Yes," he answered. I think I have someone who remembers you." Iris stepped aside. Marley took a shaky step forward, then another. He looked up at Tommy and let out a low, soft sound, almost like a sigh. Tommy stared. Then he whispered, "Marley?" Marley wagged his tail once. Then he collapsed at Tommy's feet. Tommy dropped to his knees. He touched the dog's face with shaking hands. "It's really you," he said, voice breaking. "They told me you were gone, that you got lost. I looked for you. I tried, but I got sick. I couldn't get to you." Iris stood back, tears streaming down her face. For the first time since she'd known him, Marley looked truly peaceful. They sat in the park for over an hour. Iris explained everything, how she had found the photo, how she had taken Marley from the shelter, how she had followed every clue, hoping to give Marley one last good day. Tommy listened, his hand never leaving Marley's head. "I got discharged from the hospital," he said. "Went back to my apartment and he was gone. The manager said the city took him. I called every shelter. No one had him. I thought he'd been put down." "He almost was," Iris said quietly, "but he waited for you, all these years." Tommy nodded, wiping his eyes with his sleeve. "That's just like him, always loyal, even when I couldn't be." As the sun dipped lower, Marley gave a small shiver. Iris looked at him. His breathing had slowed. She touched Tommy's arm. "I think it's time." Tommy bent down and whispered something into Marley's ear. Then Marley closed his eyes and didn't open them again. They buried him the next morning in Iris's small backyard under a tree full of pink blossoms. Tommy helped dig the hole. He chose a smooth stone from the park and carved Marley, my best friend, into it. When the grave was covered, Tommy stayed beside it for a long time. "He was the only thing that kept me grounded," he said. "I failed him." "No," Iris said, putting a hand on his shoulder. "You didn't. The world did, but you made it back. You were with him. That's what mattered." A photographer from a local newspaper came by later. She took a photo of Tommy kneeling beside Marley's grave, holding the photo of them from years ago. Iris stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder. The picture made the front page. He waited, and he remembered. Ashbridge Shelter couldn't survive the wave that followed. The city opened an investigation. Casey shared more stories. Other former staff members came forward, saying the shelter had ignored complaints, skipped vet checks, and deleted files. Lorna Keane was removed from her position. The shelter shut down. The animals were moved to better homes, better care. Iris got job offers from rescue groups. One offered her a leadership role, but she turned them all down for now. Instead, she worked with Tommy to start a small project called Marley's Enduring Light, a website that helped match senior dogs with loving homes. They told stories, shared resources, helped people connect. Marley had changed everything. One evening, Iris visited the park again. The same bench, the same tree. Tommy was there too, planting wildflowers around the base of a new sign the city had added near the walkway. It read, "In memory of Marley, a good dog who waited," and a reminder that no life is too small to matter. A little girl walked by with her mom. She stopped to read the sign, then asked, "Mommy, who was Marley?" Tommy looked up and smiled. "He was the best friend I ever had," he said. A month had passed since Marley's last day, but Iris still felt his presence everywhere. His blanket stayed folded near the heater. His leash still hung on the back of her door. Sometimes she swore she could hear the soft thump of his tail or the gentle tapping of his paws on the kitchen floor. She missed him deeply. The apartment felt too quiet again, but Iris didn't let grief pull her under this time. Instead, she got to work. She and Tommy spent hours at the local library, writing, printing, and building their idea. They called it Marley's Enduring Light. It started as a small website, just a few pages, but it had a big purpose. They wanted to tell stories, real stories about old dogs like Marley, dogs who waited, dogs who were loyal, dogs who were forgotten. They also wanted to help people adopt senior animals. Many people were afraid to bring home older pets. Iris understood why. They needed care, medicine, love, and sometimes their time was short, but that didn't mean they didn't matter. "We don't measure love in years," Iris wrote on the homepage. "We measure it in moments, and Marley gave me the best moments of my life." The website took off faster than Iris expected. A dog rescue in Oregon shared their link. Then a shelter in Texas. Then a popular dog blog reposted Iris's story with the title, "She fought for one dog and changed everything." Within weeks, people were reaching out from all over the country. A woman in Michigan shared how she adopted an 11-year-old pug named Peanut. A man in North Carolina posted a photo of his new best friend, a blind shepherd mix named Lucky. Iris read every message with tears in her eyes. Marley was gone, but his light was spreading. One morning, Iris received a letter in the mail. It had the city's seal on it. For a moment, her stomach turned. Was this trouble? But when she opened it, she gasped. It was an invitation. The city council wanted her to speak at a public meeting. They were discussing new laws to improve animal shelters, and they wanted Iris to tell her story. Tommy walked her there that evening. Iris wore Marley's old tag on a necklace. It clinked gently as she stepped up to the podium. She looked out at the room. Council members, reporters, citizens, and in the front row, a girl holding a stuffed dog close to her chest. Iris cleared her throat. "My name is Iris Bell. I'm not a politician. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a woman who loved a dog named Marley. He was old, he limped, he was in pain, but he was kind, gentle, and full of love. He had been forgotten by the people who were supposed to protect him, and he almost died without anyone even knowing who he really was. I didn't save Marley. Marley saved me. He gave me purpose again. He helped me remember what it means to fight for something good. If we can change how shelters work, if we can train people to look deeper and care harder, we can save so many more Marleys." She stepped back, heart pounding. But the room clapped. Even a few council members wiped their eyes. That night, the city voted to pass a new law. All shelters must scan animals for microchips, check for past owners, and offer better medical care for seniors. Iris felt like Marley was wagging his tail somewhere up above. The next few weeks were a blur. Iris did interviews. She wrote blog posts. People started calling her the voice for old dogs. Tommy became a regular speaker at veteran centers. He talked about PTSD, homelessness, and the healing power of animals. One day, a school invited Iris to speak to a group of 5th graders. She brought a photo of Marley and told them the whole story, from the smelly shelter to the final day in the park. When she finished, a boy raised his hand. "Why did you care so much about just one dog?" Iris smiled gently. "Because sometimes one life is enough to change your whole heart." Meanwhile, Ashbridge Shelter was gone. After the investigation, the city closed it down. The building was empty now, overgrown with weeds. But Iris didn't feel sad when she passed it. She felt proud, because out of that cold, hard place, something good had grown. The animals from the shelter were moved to better places. Some were adopted, some still waited. But now, people were paying attention. Shelters were being watched more closely. Rules were changing. Volunteers were trained with more care. And old dogs, they were no longer forgotten. One sunny morning, Iris and Tommy returned to the park where Marley had passed. They carried a small tree sapling, a shovel, and a wooden sign. Together, they planted the tree right by the bench where it all happened. The sign read, "Marley's Tree," planted in memory of every old dog who waited for someone to remember. As they finished, a young couple walked by with a little girl. The girl stopped in front of the sign and read it out loud. "Who's Marley?" she asked. Tommy knelt beside her. "He was the bravest dog I ever knew," he said, "and he had the biggest heart." Back at home, Iris opened an email that made her heart swell. A small rescue group in another state wanted to start a Marley's Room, a quiet space for older dogs to rest while they waited for new homes. They asked Iris if they could use Marley's name. She cried as she wrote back, "Yes, thank you. Let his light keep shining." That night, Iris curled up on the couch with a cup of tea. She looked around the room. It was still quiet, still filled with memories. But now the silence didn't feel empty. It felt full of love, of purpose, full of Marley. She picked up his tag, still warm from her skin, and whispered, "Thank you for finding me." Outside, the tree branches swayed gently in the wind, and in her heart, Iris knew Marley's story wasn't over. It was just beginning again. In every home that opened its door to an old dog, in every child who learned to care, and in every quiet moment when someone chose love over fear.